Varanda Zimbabwe mamukasezve. So the 31st of March is supposed to bring in a new era of Zimbabwean politics, an uprising, headed by the ever-faithful constitutionalists of the War Veterans Association, helped by the suffering masses to install someone from the original party that caused the problem to begin with. You see, Varanda Zimbabwe, all of a sudden, the constitution has been mentioned. All of a sudden, the right to demonstrate is enshrined in the law and upheld. All of a sudden, journalists who were arrested have been called to be released. All of a sudden, we have corruption cases being exposed. All of a sudden, the hospitals are not good enough. Schools are not good enough. The unemployment rate is highlighted. All of a sudden, all these economic ills, these tenderpreneurs and all these kind of things are being highlighted. That is normal in a society where there is no opposition. You see, the thing is, people are so desperate. Vanhu vari kuda change. Chero pakauya satani chaiye, kana gudo, kana huku, kana chihuta chaicho chikauya, chiti ndoda kubvisa regime iripo, vanhu vanotsigira chinhu ichocho. That's the level of desperation because there is no opposition party. So, pamusha, kana pane vakadzi 15, amai nini, amai guru, handradzi, amai, what, mbuya, and so forth. But pasina kana one anogona kubika, kana kutraira, kana kuchengeta mbudzi, kana huku, kana kundorima, kana kundosakura. Ungati pamusha pane mukadzi. Kana pamusha pane varume 15. But every day panobiwa huku, panobiwa mazai, pobiwa chibage, poitwa break in, madoor, mawindow opazwa, zuva nezuva. Ungati pamusha ipapo pane varume. Is there really men pamusha ipapo? That's what's happening to our opposition. Opposition iripo papepa. But is there really an opposition in Zimbabwe? The answer to that is no. And when there is no opposition, what happens is any clown can come up with a strategy, and the masses are so desperate for change that they will support that. Let us remind Zimbabweans kuti vakuru vari kuda kuorganiza kubvisa regime iripo are right now as we speak part of that regime. Let that sink in a little bit. My problems atinao mu Zimbabwe are caused by the same people who are calling for change on the 31st. Now you need to ask yourself as a Zimbabwean, kuti zvinhu zvauchazofira musi wa31 zvichakubatsira here iwewe, or are you just being used as a tool? You see, when a country runs out of stuff to steal, so things go well in a dictatorship in the beginning, because what happens is there's a lot of stuff to steal. The taxes are brought up, people are toll gates and 2% transfer at your bank and AIDS levy and all these little stupid taxes are brought in so that they can loot. So when that starts running out, they start eliminating each other. So that's what happened when Mugabe left. They saw that 100 million yatogara tichiba pamwedzi haichakwanisike, we have to share it. So when thieves have to share their loot, they think of ways of how to eliminate each other. And that's what's happening in Zimbabwe at the moment. They've run out of things to steal. So when you run out of things to steal, you have to cut down on the amount of thieves. So that's what's happening. The group of thieves have subdivided themselves into two groups. And the one group wants to steal what the other group is busy stealing. That's what's happening. So when that group has got not enough to steal, they start looking at, saka ava vari kuita zvemamining nai, isusu hatipo. Ava vari kuita zvefuel, isusu hatipo. Ava vane mashares mugas, isusu hatipo. And that's the driving factor behind 31 March. Now, that being said, and we admit kuti ndo zviripo, we still need to get rid of the regime. And by getting rid of half the regime so that the other half, vauya vazotonga, means that the regime is now, their power is being cut in half also. Just like Mugabe. You know, Mugabe took how many? 37 years before people uprised against him? How many years has it taken for the second Republic president for people to uprise? Less than 7 years. You see? So what will happen is, whoever takes over on the 31st of March, they are going to be in power for less than 7 years. And sometimes, like some people refer to, how do you eat an elephant one spoon at a time? This might be the opportunity to cut the regime's power in half. Kukonzeresa. Now, if there was an organized opposition, and I include myself in that, if I had worked harder, if I had got more supporters, if I had finished my book sooner, if I had managed to reach more people, if I had managed to get more funding, let me tell you right now, the 31st of March would be an opportunity for a third force to enter and take over. Now, if you have a political opposition that has everything that I am missing finances, they have finances. I am missing support at diplomatic levels, they have that. And yet they do not think of even entering the fray as a third force on the 31st. In fact, vakatonyarara. Now, the thing with the opposition, and you've got to look at it very carefully, is if you look at the convoy that the opposition president drives, it's the same as the presidential convoy. And that's on a budget. Imagine if they had state resources, how big that convoy would be. If you look at Zvirukuitika Harare City Council, if you look at what happened during the GNU, and the ministers and their benefits, and the Harare City Council, the salaries of the councillors and the people that are running the show with the opposition, and you take my personal experience within the opposition, where we spoke about not taking vehicles, not living in mansions, not accepting loans as MPs, and all of those things the opposition did not listen to because varda kudya. So the opposition in Zimbabwe is not about changing the system. The opposition in Zimbabwe is about being a beneficiary of the system. No one wants to change the system, pakati pe regime ne opposition. So again, so at that one, my comrades, kana muchida kupinda muroad pindai, kana muchida kusapota zviripo sapotai, because ndiri kunzwisisa shungu dzenyu, because hakuna opposition leadership, and therefore, because there is a void in the opposition, you have to take what you can. And at the moment, the 31st of March looks like the next best plan. So everyone's going to jump onto that bus. And rightly so. Sakavaranda Zimbabwe. It is indeed our fault as the opposition. Again, I label myself as that, because we were not organized enough to take advantage of this particular day. But an interesting story is that those who can take advantage of this day don't. And you have to ask yourself, why? It's because they are regime projects. The only people fighting for a place on the 31st are A team and B team of the same regime. Ndo vari kurwisana, vari kuda kuba. Saka varanda Zimbabwe, look very carefully at what you are doing on the 31st and who you are supporting. For some of us, we do not have enough resources. We do not have enough influence to do anything on the 31st. We will bide our time. We will plan and organize until we are in a position where we will call for something like the 31st, where we will be in charge, where we will have tentacles in the army and the CIO and the police, where we will have people in the teachers, nurses, unions, and all that kind of stuff. That day is coming. We are working towards that. With the little bit of finances that we have, the little bit of influence that we have, and the social media little pages that we have, we will work towards that. Whoever comes on the 31st is an extension of a current regime. They will not improve Zimbabwe. Hapana change inoitika kwauri. Unozongonakirwawo zvako nekuti ka section ke regime vachamamiswa, vamwe vachaiswa mujeri, vamwe vachatiza kuti vanogara kuEurope nemabhillions avo. Yes, ndo zvingangofadzawo vanhu. But in fact, for real change, any real change in Zimbabwe, hakuna chinhu chinoitika. That system is rotten to the core. To the core. It needs a total revamp. Zimbabwe needs a dictatorship that is organized and for the people in order to change where we are. You will not be able to do that democratically. There's too many rotten apples that will frustrate the process at every single turn. You need someone who comes in and says, this is how it's going to work, and nothing gets debated or passed in Parliament. It just happens. And if you do not follow that, you are dismissed. That is the only way to fix a country as broken as that Zimbabwe is. Sakavaranda is Zimbabwe. Think carefully on the 31st. Inini, I will continue writing the book. We will continue to meet people where we can. We will continue to build Varanda Zimbabwe. And we will continue to make efforts to bring real change with Zimbabwe. To those who haven't, please like the page, Brett Mouvet. Also those who can subscribe for $4.50, I think it is, per month. We have 21 subscribers at the moment, and we are obviously hoping to increase that. Sawaranda Zimbabwe. Mweta zora kana. Shap.